Thank you. Right, I've just been handed our first letter of complaint. It was faxed through to us after our first experience, but as always with letters of complaint, you know, it seems to be written by someone who appears to be genetically defective. I mean, literally, it says, "Dear BBC, why is the structure of my chromosomes?" Anyway, this is the time of year when you tend to hear this sort of thing non-stop. Hi, how are you?
Not too good, actually. I feel a bit fluey.
Yeah, you got a nagging headache and you feel tired all the time? Yeah. I had that. I think there's some sort of a bug going around.
All right.
Whatever you've got, it's always some sort of bug, and they've always had it as well. The best thing to do with people like this is to worry them.
Hi, how are you?
Well, not too good, actually. I feel a bit fluey.
Yeah. Have you got that sort of nagging headache and you feel tired all the time?
Yeah.
I think you've got a brain tumour.
Yeah, I think there's one going round.
Throughout history, human beings have always suffered from illnesses, but the reaction has always been the same.
What ho, Sarah? How goest thou?
In faith, not so good. I think I've got Black Death.
Yeah. Have you got like sort of huge pustules that weep?
Yeah. You had like nausea and vomiting.
I bet that. Yeah. Have you got like sort of convulsions?
Yeah.
Agonising death.
Yeah. No, I haven't had that.
No. Neither have I. That must be some sort of bug.
In medieval times, the average life expectancy was much lower than it is today, and many diseases which are now easily curable were then fatal.
And finally tonight, Sir Richard of Leicester, the famous soldier and elder statesman, has died aged 32 after a long struggle against a slight headache. Meanwhile, King Louis VII of France has died aged 13. He was suffering from delusions and tried to remove his own appendix, thinking he was Doogie Howser, MD.
Despite the gruelling hours and long training, many people still want to enter the medical profession, attracted by its media image as portrayed in such masterpieces as Carry On Doctor. If only the NHS was really like that.
Mr. Speaker, we shall be providing an additional £50 million in NHS funding this year. That includes £10 million for large hypodermic syringes for Jim Dale to carry facing forwards when Hattie Jakes is bending over. Furthermore, we shall provide at least one lovely pair for every hospital fruit bowl in case Barbara Windsor should visit. And furthermore, I should say that under Labour, the resources allocated to be able to train doctors to say, "Oh, matron," was reduced by 50%.
As part of the NHS reforms, the government are rumoured to be considering introducing an Australian-style flying doctor service into this country. In the back of the plane, of course, is the flying waiting room.
OK, Mr. McCready, come back next week. Tell me if it feels any better.
However, there are signs that even with the flying doctor, there will still be a problem with waiting lists. Now, one thing that does the medical profession no end of good is the behaviour of medical students. Whenever you see medical students in the street, it's always incredibly worrying to think just what these people are going to end up doing.
Scalpel.
Scalpel.
Forceps.
Forceps.
Ragmag.
Ragmag.
Right, come on, Mr. Jackson, we're not taking your appendix out till you buy a ragmag. The first thing that happens when you arrive at medical school is that each student gets given a dead body to use for dissection. Now, anybody who's ever met anyone to do with the medical profession will know that these bodies are invariably acquired under false pretences.
Now, Mr. Harmsworth, this is the form, the consent form for your grandfather's body to be used for medical research.
I see.
You understand before you signed what the terms of this form state?
Yes.
That your grandfather's body will be used in the training of anatomy and for purposes of medico-pharmacological research.
Yes.
Also that at the end of term, bits of him will be left on bus seats for a laugh. And also that he may well be wheeled around hospital corridors with a funny hat on as part of our post-exam celebrations.
It's what he would have wanted.
Now, take a close look at this pair of gentlemen's underpants style gentlemen's underpants. You may notice a slight tear on the left hip. If you think you can mend them, please phone the Crimestoppers number, as I'd hate to have to throw them away.
John Major is supposed to have adopted a new, gentler approach to Europe, which is a shame, as most Euro analysts now believe that as differences between partners become more and more intractable, the community will turn to a new criteria to sort out its arguments. Which of its leaders is the most hard? Our political correspondent.
Well, clearly, against a tall man like Helmut Kohl, John Major would have a number of options open to him. He could nut him. He could get in a quick burst of punches and hope he'd done enough. Or most impressively, he could call him a poof and then just stand there, beckoning him with his hands and saying, "Come on then, you fat old Nazi." And by the way, I could have Brian Walden. I could.
John Major has already led the way by introducing the hard EQ. Demonstrating that when it comes to intergovernmental currency negotiations, he doesn't run from no one. He was also demonstrating his hardness by not having any women in his first cabinet.
All right, gentlemen, this is the first all-male cabinet meeting for 11.5 years, but I don't want the absence of women to affect our procedure in any way. So now let's get on with the first item on the agenda. Who can piss the highest?
Are the other European leaders, however, as soft as they look? Our political pundits are working now to find out.
So, Jacques Delors, I put it to you that if John Major were to come up to you and say, "You specky French twat, I suppose you like Sacha Distel? For, did you just breathe out or did we move into a garlic factory?" If John Major were to say these things to you, you may, and I'm not saying you would, cack lays pants. And by the way, I'd just like to say to John Cal, anytime.